This was never going to be an easy video to make, but a 48-7 demolition job by the New Orleans Saints has brought up some very bizarre new questions surrounding this Philadelphia Eagles team. Now, the offense in particular has come under a lot of scrutiny this week. Putting up only 7 points against the Saints, it's not hard to see why, but quarterback Carson Wentz threw 3 interceptions and no touchdowns for only the second time in his career. He looked off, the offense wasn't clicking at all, but how much of it was on his shoulders, how much of it was down to coordinator, and how much of it was down to the receivers? This is a film room that has to dive really deep into the tape to find out, was there a difference with Carson Wentz? Is he putting on too much pressure on his own shoulders, or is there something much bigger that's hurting this unit? My name is Liam Jenkins and welcome to another episode of Eagles Film Room. But before we get started, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Our goal for the year is 5,000 and we can't do it without your help. So make sure if you love what we do, you're smashing that like button, hitting subscribe and checking out phillysportsnetwork.com every day for your constant dose of Eagles content. I've divided this video into 3 parts. The first is other factors that aren't on Carson Wentz's shoulders. The second are the controllables from the quarterback. And the third are things Wentz did well. We'll start with this play. It's a play action look where we're going to see Zach Ertz over the middle get great separation. But what the Eagles don't account for, and more specifically Stefan Wisniewski, is a charging Sheldon Rankins who goes through the trenches, making life terribly difficult for the Eagles quarterback. So Wentz, just as he's about to release that ball on a perfect offensive play to get some huge yardage down the field, gets absolutely swallowed by the Louisville Lumberjacks. So here we see better view. It's like Wisniewski totally misses his assignment. He all gets sent down, and before you know it, that's the end of the play. Saints defense with the momentum. This is a play that just symbolizes the Eagles' offensive deficiencies. Lane Johnson jumps offside by a fraction of a second, so he's out of place. Then Wisniewski bobbles a snap. Carson Wentz somehow saves it, juggling it around. Then he gets pressured, has to escape, and he does get the ball out and straight through the hands of his ultimate safety cushion in Zach Ertz. That was every possible error happening at once, and the offensive line was no better throughout this game. Lane Johnson was actually one of the main culprits for leaking pressure this game, who could still be battling injury, and we knew there were going to be teething problems with Wisniewski. What we didn't know though was that the Saints were going to constantly bring 6-man front just to try and catch this Eagles O-line off guard. It looked like there was a miscommunication, no one picks up the extra edge rusher, and Wentz goes down like a sack of potatoes. On this look though, Wentz's sole job is to hold that safety, so either the underneath route opens up, the seam with Golden Tate, or we've got Alshon Jeffrey on a stick and nod outside. The idea is that wherever that safety goes, another area of the field will open up in man coverage, but the problem is that Matthews gets held mid-route. The ball should never have gone to him to begin with, as Alshon Jeffrey actually had a step on the cornerback outside. That could have been a dime from Carson Wentz given the position of the safety. But when we look at it up front, watch out, number 47 there, Alex Anzalone out of Florida, who's had a great season for the Saints, just pushes Jason Kelce into the face of Wentz. It creates the illusion of pressure, and from there, there's not really much the Eagles quarterback can do. And unfortunately, this was the narrative for most of the game. Now, I had the intent of this film room showcasing that Wentz was putting too much pressure on himself and reverting to rookie habits, which we'll get to, but the problem is there was so much pressure from that Saints defensive front where there really shouldn't have been. This is a strong offensive line, the depth was tested yet again, and that was yet another example of a 6th man coming completely free, forcing a pass into the flat. We get another example here where in fact Carson Wentz is swallowed in the pocket. Now look at how little room he's got to work with. The Eagles are being overloaded on the offensive line. The receivers are not able to gain any separation, and what we see is just the quarterback having to take the L and get absolutely vacuumed by a tenacious Saints pass rush. Earlier in the game, this incompletion here was actually viewed as a quarterback error. It really wasn't. The man to blame is Lane Johnson, who allows Cameron Jordan, an underrated pass rusher, to push his way to Carson Wentz and get his hand on that throwing arm just as the ball is coming out. Now we've looked at the offensive line and receivers not getting separation, but what about the things that Carson Wentz was responsible for? things like his own mechanics, his progression, his decision making. Well, let's take a look. For instance here, what we're going to see is Carson Wentz target Golden Tate, highlighted in yellow. He should be looking at that linebacker, because if he comes down and breaks on Golden Tate, Alshon Jeffrey outside is going to be open. That is exactly what happens. Jeffrey gets a step on the outside, exactly there. That's going to be a huge completion. Instead, he forces the ball to Golden Tate where there isn't a window and the pass is incomplete. Now, this play caused plenty of debate, and with good reason. It's a defensive front the Eagles should be very familiar with. The Saints are going to drop a single safety over the top to break on a crossing route, while the two corners in a cover 3 are responsible for 50% of the field and will take out anything coming their way. So the minute that route breaks, the safety drops down, and at this point we know that although Zach Ertz is blanketed, Nelson Agholor is going to have two defensive backs trailing him. Carson Wentz flips the bird, throws it anyway, and Marshall Lattimore picks it off like it's nobody's business. That ball should never have been thrown. Now, whether he was staring down Zach Ertz and it just made the wrong decision, or he wasn't looking at that safety, that was a bad move by Wentz. You can argue we saw this several times. On this look, Golden Tate, highlighted in blue, is going to slip between this zone coverage for what could be an easy completion. But Wentz is actually audibling out to Alshon Jeffrey. He's making a signal to try and change something at the line. And what we see instantly, if you watch Alshon Jeffrey in those first few steps of the route, is he gets plenty of separation. He moves inside, battles out, and look at the space he got right there. Now, that could have been an easy completion. Wentz instead forces a hurried football to Golden Tate. He can't get enough velocity on it, and the Saints very almost pick it off. We see this a lot, where Wentz is just trying to do too much with the ball, and if I'm honest, it looks like he's just trying to really battle this pressure all by himself. The interceptions, the way he's almost flipping the bird and just throwing it, we saw him get visibly frustrated on the sideline, and here we see an example where, as opposed to taking a check down over the middle, he's going to sling it deep again, hoping that his tight end can get the job done, but he actually pump fakes. He's looking at Zach Ertz, who's right over the middle in that picture, doesn't throw it, and instead throws into double coverage, incompletion. We see another example here of Carson Wentz just slinging it deep for the hell of it, right at the end of the game into the end zone. No one there, no one was even close in that vicinity. And this is another area that I want to speak about. His footwork got very, very static towards the end of the game. We saw from year 1 to year 2 Wentz take a huge jump, but look at this. No one should be throwing from that angle. That's like away from your body, your feet are pointing in the opposite direction. It's no wonder that ball fell to the floor. On the run, Carson Wentz was just as unproductive. I think he's genuinely at this point just trying to do too much. The frustration's getting to him. He's not happy with something in the offense. We saw it against the Jags, but can we really blame him? In a situation like this, what is the quarterback supposed to do? You've got a check down that's wide open right there underneath, and unfortunately the pressure gets to him and he gets swallowed up yet again, and it's plays like that that are only going to build the frustration. My issue here though with Carson Wentz is that he's been known as this methodical, calm, composed quarterback, and we're not seeing that. We're seeing someone that's getting increasingly erratic, trying to force windows that aren't there. Like right there, you've got a receiver open, you can get that ball out, you've got one of the quickest releases in the league, and instead you hold on to try and get a much bigger play. You can't let the game get the better of you. That one play mentality just isn't there anymore, and when you've got situations like that where you simply just have to take a shot because nobody's open, you're gonna get frustrated. But the difference between an Andrew Luck and a Cam Newton is that one can control their emotions, and this is something we've not seen from Carson Wentz. He's very, very rarely been visibly emotional or visibly angry on the field. He's still able to make good plays like that dart to Jordan Matthews, or like in fact the rest of the plays in this video. Like here for instance, he's going to avoid a sack and get that ball out to the flat as pressure once again came out of nowhere. But the issue is that there were too many instances in this game where Carson Wentz was trying to put the whole offense on his back and do it all by himself. This isn't a scenario where it's like Russell Wilson and there were no help around him last year. This isn't a scenario where it's Andrew Luck 2 seasons ago. Wentz has got a functioning offense. The offensive line is struggling a little bit, but he has to do more to settle down, to ensure that he's leading this team. You're getting blown out by 30 odd points at one stage in this game. The team are going to look to you as a leader to be exemplary on the field, to set that tone. And if you're struggling, if you're being erratic, if you're going to throw passes into coverage windows which are just too tight, then what are the rest of that team going to do? And that is the one thing I'll say with Carson Wentz from this game. He had a fantastic demeanour about him at the start of this year, but his frustrations have built up. We've seen him punch doors, get visibly angry on the sideline. We saw it against the Jags, as I said, after a sack. There's something not quite right, but this is one play that did stand out post-snap. He sends Wendell Smallwood out to the wide receiver spot. everyone's in man coverage and accounted for. It leaves Alex Anzalone as the only linebacker not in coverage. It gives Zach Ertz a cushion. Wentz is able to thread the ball to his tight end, knowing that, well, 6 minus 5 leaves one man free, and Zach Ertz is able to get the big completion. But overall, these were few and far between. Carson Wentz, in my opinion, in this game, had an offense around him that was crumbling, and as a result, got very angry about it and just tried to do a little bit too much, as opposed to just chipping away what this offense was designed to do. I'd love to know what you guys think. I'm in no way putting this loss on Carson Wentz. As I say, in fact, I actually went out with the intention of seeing if these frustrations were causing a lapse in concentration or these old habits to resurface. But my biggest takeaway was that the offensive line and the receivers were way more problematic, which is only going to enhance that frustration. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and as a young quarterback, Wentz is only going to get better. This loss is certainly not on his shoulders, but he is not exempt from criticism, and there was certainly some justification for it this week. If you like what you've seen, guys, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We would love you to join the Philly Sports Network Nation. Follow myself on Twitter at LiamJenkins21 or at PhiladelphiaSN. And don't forget, we've got podcasts, videos, articles every single day of the week at phillysportsnetwork.com.